You know, for decades, these substances were just pushed to the fringes of science. But now, psychedelics are making this huge comeback. We're re-examining them for their incredible therapeutic potential, especially for tough-to-treat mood disorders like depression. And the big question everyone is asking is, how? How do they actually work?
So let's dive right into that, because the answer might just be hiding in the way these compounds talk to our brain's most basic emotional circuits. Could it be that simple? Is the ability to reshape our emotional responses the real secret sauce behind how psychedelics can heal?
All right, here's our game plan. We're going to tackle this from a few angles. First, we'll look at how our emotions can get locked up. Then, how psychedelics might unlock the negative stuff, while, and this is crucial, amping up the positive. We'll also ask if these changes can actually stick around, and finally, get into the nitty-gritty of how the brain might literally be rewiring itself.
Okay, so first things first, let's understand the problem we're trying to solve here. In conditions like depression, it's like our emotional processing gets stuck in a rut. It becomes rigid, caught in these negative feedback loops that are just incredibly hard to break out of. And just to be clear, it's really helpful to make a quick distinction here. We have emotions, which are these brief, intense reactions to something specific, right? But then there's mood, which is that longer, more general feeling that hangs around. And it looks like psychedelics have a powerful impact on both.
So if our emotions are locked, how do these substances act as the key? Well, to answer that, we've got to zoom in on a tiny but super powerful part of the brain, the amygdala.
You can think of the amygdala as your brain's alarm system. It's the threat detector. It's ground zero for processing fear and other really potent emotions. And here's the thing. In depression, that alarm system is often stuck in the on position, just constantly firing off warnings. Now, this is where things get really fascinating, and maybe a little counterintuitive. This image shows us how that amygdala, the brain's threat detector, responds to emotional phases after different treatments, and the results are not what you might expect. So get this. Standard antidepressants, SSRIs, they generally work by dampening the amygdala's activity, and that can lead to what people call emotional blunting, where everything just feels a bit flat. But psilocybin, in people with depression, seems to do the opposite. The day after a dose, it actually ramps up the amygdala's activity. The whole idea is shifting. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's about enabling people to finally re-engage with and process difficult feelings they've been avoiding. It's the difference between numbing a feeling and actually learning from it.
But hold on, it's not just about confronting the negative stuff. A massive part of the psychedelic experience and its therapeutic power is about turning up the volume on positive emotions in a really profound way. You hear about these experiences that scientists call oceanic boundlessness, this incredible, almost indescribable feeling of unity, of pure joy, of being deeply connected to everything. And what's amazing is that study after study shows that the more intense this positive experience is, the better the long-term mental health outcomes are.
And check this out. This chart shows us another crucial effect. It turns out that psilocybin can significantly increase our emotional empathy. That's our ability to actually feel with other people. And it boosts it both consciously and unconsciously. This isn't just about feeling better yourself, it's about feeling more connected to others. And that's a huge piece of the puzzle. This all sounds amazing, right? But it brings up the big question. Is this just a temporary high, a fleeting afterglow? Or can this actually lead to real, lasting change in someone's life?
Well, the research is starting to map out a clear timeline. You have the acute experience itself in the first few hours. Then, a day later, boom, that jump in amygdala reactivity we talked about. By the 1-week mark, empathy and positive mood tend to hit their peak. Then, over the next month or so, that endless loop of negative thoughts, what we call rumination, starts to quiet down. And all of this seems to set the stage for real long-term mood improvements months down the line.
So that initial period of positivity, that's the famous afterglow. It's well documented. But the real magic isn't just in the feeling itself. It's about what the brain can do with that window of opportunity, how it might lock in those positive changes for the long haul. And that brings us to the final and maybe most exciting piece of the puzzle, the biological how. How does the brain actually make these benefits stick? It all comes down to a concept called neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity is basically the brain's superpower. It's this incredible fundamental ability to change, to adapt, and to literally build new connections based on experience. And substances that kick this process into high gear have earned this cool new name, psychoplastogens.
So let's zoom way in. This image shows what's happening at the microscopic level.
Psychedelics seem to encourage our brain cells, our neurons, to sprout new branches and form new, stronger connections. It's like they're helping the brain build new, healthier communication highways where the old roads might have been blocked or broken.
And what's so cool is that this growth isn't random. As you can see here, it seems to be happening in some of the most critical circuits for regulating our mood. This specific pathway connects our thinking brain, the prefrontal cortex, with our memory center, the hippocampus, and our emotional alarm, the amygdala. Strengthening those connections could be the physical basis for better emotional health.
So by jump-starting what scientists are calling effective plasticity, basically making our emotional hardware more flexible, psychedelics seem to create this incredible window of opportunity. It's a period where the brain is just more open to change, which might be exactly what someone needs to break free from those rigid negative patterns and learn new, healthier ways of seeing the world.
So what's the big takeaway here? Well, the science is unbelievably exciting, but we gotta remember it's still early days. Researchers are on the frontier, trying to answer these massive questions. What's the right dose? How do we best use this window of opportunity in therapy? And do you need to have a challenging experience for it to work? There's still so much to figure out.
Which really leaves us with this final, profound thought. We're starting to understand how these substances can temporarily unlock the brain and make it more flexible. The next great challenge, the next frontier, is figuring out how we can best use that precious opportunity to help people build new, lasting foundations for a healthier, happier life.